should every color have access to floodgates? Out of 19 votes, we got one who said maybe. I asked them to elaborate, and they didn't elaborate. I had 3 people who said no, and a whopping 15 people who said yes. Dan swayed me, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about every color and floodgates.
Yeah. Personally, I think every color should get floodgates, like of the same variety. I'm kind of annoyed that we still haven't gotten that, to be honest with you, because that, have certain colors having access to certain floodgates kind of determines their viability as a whole, and or it makes other colors not viable for an entire format per se. For example, EX5, our nationals format, purple is probably the best color. I don't think anyone's going to contest you if you say that, because purple in Japan right now is doing very, very well by quite a bit. One of the best floodgates to beat purple is Pomumon, right? Pomumon and his fellow clones, Pillowmon, Gatsumon, etc. So the colors that have access to those cards are doing, they have that advantage, right? So decks like Bloom Lord, decks like Black Lord Greymon, when they have access to these cards, are going to inherently do well into purple. But then, I really want to play blue. I can't play blue because I don't have a Pomu clone, so my deck gets folded into a fucking Rice Krispie treat by Anubismon, So there's, my biggest reasoning, if I have to give one for why every color should have that, is so we can increase the viability of the decks, right? But then, obviously there comes that con where it's do you widen the gap significantly between meta decks and rogue decks and stuff like that? And that in of itself is a whole other discussion, I feel like, and that really depends on the balancing team to do a good job. But I think as a whole, having more floodgates and specifically floodgates that not like a Yu-Gi-Oh floodgate per se, where it's I can't out it, it's just stuck on the fucking board, but a floodgate where I have to invest a little bit of resource, but it's not impossible to out. I think that's fine, right? I don't have any gripes with that personally.
Yeah, that Dan swayed me on it. Before I was like, why would I want Bloom to say, hey, I just established my board of 8 Digimon, and now you can't reduce costs, so you can't dex me. Before I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to see that in the slightest bit. But, the arguments arguing for floodgates for other reasons outside of Bloom, because I still don't want Bloom to be able to do that. Definitely, I think it's definitely a great thing that we should, or at least Bandai should look into doing. Because I agree, when I think about good generic yellow rookies, I'm sometimes, you like a Salamon, you like there's not too many good ones right now. I would like to just say, all right, screw it. I'll just throw in my Psychmon and Gazimon equivalent and just call it a day. That's what I do with Ofani Loop. I'm like, well, it seems like my rookie lineup is decided. I'll just play 4 Psychmon, 4 Gazimon, and whatever else I decide, because that's how I'll roll. And it sucks that not every color is capable of doing that. Although, honestly, screw blue. I'm just gonna say it. Blue, red, y'all can go Dynafire as a yellow, purple player. I'll stay here in my lane and let y'all suffer without your good floodgates.
You're gonna slowly realize throughout this podcast, most likely, Juan, that Varney has a lot of hate for decks right now. Name a deck he hates it at the moment.
Hey, name a deck. Name a deck. Good. Name one. Jessmon. I don't
Red
hate
Hybrid.
That. I like Jessmon. I do hate Red Hybrid with the intensity.
Anything that's blue flare, Old Force.
Okay. I don't hate Blue Flare, but Blue Flare is just it's on my slight irritation radar. All Force, slight irritation. Okay, so my problem with All Force, Wong. Okay. This is my problem with All Force.
There's nothing wrong with All Force.
Too. It's All Force and Beelzemon. Floodgates into those matchups mean absolutely nothing. It means something until they get going, and then it's okay, well, you were gonna get going anyways. I'm sorry for trying to cuck you.
Cry me a river, Varney. All right.
No, hold up. To his defense, I actually do think that at least in Beelzemon's case, right? Because All Force was never nearly as dominant as Beelzemon, right? Because Beelzemon was borderline 2-0. It was disgusting. Jeez, whatever. But because you couldn't floodgate Beelzemon effectively, that was one of the biggest reasons why that deck was so powerful. Because you had no way to slow it down, because it would just pop the floodgate like immediately. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna go, like, okay, GG, go next. Enter scoop phase, like.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just throw a floodgate destroying effect on our level 3 that can activate after you warp, because that's not busted. What are you gonna say, Mike?
So that's actually one of the issues with Anubismon. Is if you try to memory block Anubismon, well, Anubismon resolves the pop prior to all the memory gain. So now the amount of floodgates that you have that can actually limit Anubismon's plays are now between play cost reduction blockers and summon blockers. So the pool is now much more limited. It makes the amount of decks that could potentially contest Anubis much smaller. So that in of itself, unironically, is an issue. So yeah, to his defense.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like it's annoying, but also you should be able to also kind of out a floodgate. It shouldn't stop you from
No,
playing
I
the game
agree.
consistently.
It shouldn't be built into my level 3.
The only thing
warp on.
I would say Beelzemon is literally the only deck that was a deck that it didn't matter what your opponent did, because that deck just facilitated itself with its own strategy with the mill and stuff. It didn't matter it didn't matter if you had 5 blockers on your opponent's turn. Oh, word, I'm gonna kill everything, and then I'm just gonna trash all your security, and then I'm gonna unsuspended swing for game anyways. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was like the only deck that ever in the game that was like, it didn't matter what your opponent was playing almost.
So I like I said, I think removing a floodgate, it should have a cost to it. It shouldn't be free, but it also shouldn't be impossible, right? It being impossible kills off certain decks, but at the same
100%.
time, having it way too easy, then you end up with things like Beelzemon, right? You end up with you end up with a format that's way too fast. Having, like, for example, going back to Anubismon, this is very relevant because it's our nationals format, right? If Anubismon wants to kill Pomumon, you have to resort to things like Pummel Whack or Kinkakumon or Starter Deck War Garurumon Pop or even Ruin Mode, right? So the outs exist, but you have to build around these specific outs, right? So I think, like I said, devil's advocate, pros and cons for both sides. And, side tangent on Beelzemon, I ended. If you don't know, Machinedramon has a very good.
Yeah, Machinedramon is one of the.
Yeah,
that was my thing, and
unfortunately for me,
I beat all my Beelzemon matchups during that regionals with Machinedramon.
It was super easy because I just sit there and I just wait until they deck out. I'm like, okay, you done?
Yep.
Are you done?
Yep.
All right, good talk, man. Good. All right, great.
The amount of troubles I went through trying to out a Machinedramon stack with Beelzemon made me put 2 7th full cluster in the deck, and it still wasn't enough.
I had people playing 3 to 4 full clusters plus double Bellstar against me, and
oh my god!
And I was like, okay, cool. This won't happen at regionals, so I don't care. Like, good for you, man.
Facts, exactly.